This is Ray Mooney's Wild World of Wet Shaving. Let's begin. Hey everyone, welcome back. This is Ray Mooney. Today I'm talking to someone who's really critical to many of the artisan products that we love to buy and hoard. He's also a master perfumer and by all indications, a real stand-up fellow. I'd like to welcome Shawn, Maher of Chatillon Lux and Maher Olfactive to the show. Welcome, Shawn.
Thanks. I appreciate you having me.
It's my pleasure. I just want to start by saying how excited I am to actually have you on the podcast. I apologize that it's taken this long, but I couldn't think of a better guest to mark my 30th episode, which is this one. And I'm also a huge fan of your work. So great to have you
Well,
on.
thanks. Yeah. Yeah. Congratulations on 30 episodes. I can't
Thank you.
imagine all the work that goes into doing all that. So that's pretty impressive.
You know, it's quite straightforward. It's just a casual conversation about shaving, and then I bookend it with an intro and outro that my son, who's into music, made for me, and there you have it, sort of raw and unedited.
Oh, well,
Just
still, I've worked. Yeah. I just know that there's a lot on the back end that people don't
like
realize. So I feel
for
like you should
sure,
definitely take a
and
little credit.
I appreciate it. Thank you, and I'm very proud to have done 30 episodes so far. I never would have thought. Someone told me a few years back I'd be podcasting about wet shaving.
Hmm.
I would have laughed, but here we are.
Right. Yeah.
You know. So I guess we'll talk about wet shaving first, even though
Mhm.
you are a perfumer by trade. So how did it all start for you? How did you get into the wet shaving game?
Well, I kind of had this. I had a beard for the longest time, and I do again now. But for a while, I thought, just shave it off and get a little weird with it. And I, of course, have sensitive skin. So, as the story goes, as many people do, I started researching razor burn and found out about wet shaving.
Yeah.
And I also, too, I was one who never was that into scents because as a child of the 90s, a lot of things I had Tommy Hilfiger and Nautica
Right.
Blue and things that smelled that were out. They worked and they smelled fine, but it
Yeah.
wasn't anything I ever really cared about. But growing up, I also really something I inherited from my dad was really being in a sense in like nature, smelling
Oh,
things, really appreciating sense of everyday life. And so I was intrigued by that always. And then when wet shaving, you kind of get more exposed to vintage scents and things
sure.
with more traditional perfumery, and that kind of sparked with me and sparked my
Interesting.
interest. And then I kind of had found during one winter that I really enjoyed the L'Occitane balm, and I was buying it, and it was very expensive. And so I saw I had like 6 ingredients, and I thought, what if I could make something like this? So I started experimenting, and apparently shea butter smells very gross to me. So
Mhm.
I got some scents, I mixed those, and I was like, this is actually all speaking to me. And then my buddy Jason, who is a very old friend of mine, said you should start selling this, and that's how it started.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. So started as a balm maker almost, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I called it the salve. It was the first product. Actually, it was very thick and very viscous, and it took
Right.
a lot of education on how to use it because it was like a thing people grab a big old scoop and they put it on, and I so I learned a
Yeah.
lot. Luckily, coming from a marketing background, I learned very quickly to you got to really educate on a new type of product. But it was fun to do. It was fun to do something new, and yeah, it was a blast.
Sure. Is that something you still make or?
I don't. I
Okay.
have, and I know some people miss it. I don't know if everybody did because like I said, it was a very um, controversial. But I have given the recipe to people who have
Okay.
missed it. So if anybody does want it, let me know, and I'll tell you how to make it. You can make
Awesome.
it yourself.
That's great. And you still wet shave, I
Mhm.
assume? Yeah. You have a
Yeah.
favorite? Do you have a favorite razor?
I have the Colonial General, I guess it
Yeah,
was the brass one.
sure.
Yeah, that one was my thing. I like it was a stiffer razor. I have kind of thick hair, so I felt that really cut through. It didn't get a lot of tugging, and yeah, I liked it, and I settled on that, and I've been using it for years and years now.
Well, that's great. So not a collector then.
I did. Well, I went through the phase,
Oh,
and I still have
sure.
some somewhere. I think a few super speeds and whatnot, but
Okay.
they're all packed away. I stopped using them, so I kind of just got to the point where I was like, um, yeah, this is my favorite. I think it took me a few years, but I finally found the
Sure.
one.
That's
Mm-hmm.
great. Great and uncommon in this crowd because many of us are
Mm-hmm.
weirdo
Mm-hmm.
collectors with way too many things, you know? Do you have a favorite or type of brush or brush hair? Is that a thing for you?
I do like I think like a mixed boar badger is kind
Okay.
of my thing. I have a Samog mixed one that I use mostly.
Yep.
And I bet I do like a nice badger brush too. But I find like the nice thing about something with a boar brush is I just feel like it kind of for me it takes a little it's a little faster to get going.
Okay.
And I have a 8 o'clock job that's 30 minutes away. So and then I get up in the morning and work out. So at that point I'm kind of like any if I can save myself 2 or 3 minutes, that's
Sure.
real good thing for me.
Understandable. Understandable for sure. Soap base. Is there one that stands out for you or
No, I'm kind
anything?
of, I like all the classics.
Use
Like,
anything? Yeah.
I still have a lot of the Declaration Grooming ones left
Sure.
over from, so I have been using those. And yeah, I kind of also have one that I've got to store those Art of Shaving, the vintage tallow, like maybe not vintage, that's not, but the older tallow ones they did in the sandalwood. I have a stockpile of those that I keep
Okay.
around, and that's
Nice.
when I use a lot. And when I use those up, that'll be sad. But I definitely um, have a lot stockpiled from that I could probably like, as you can relate. I probably have enough to last my lifetime already, so I'm
That's it.
pretty
Yeah, I,
pretty
I can
set.
relate. I can relate.
Mm-hmm.
My lifetime, my son's lifetime, maybe even
Mm-hmm.
grandkids, you know. It's yeah. Do you have
Mm-hmm.
a favorite artisan among all of those, a soap maker?
Well, I would say that again, it's always kind of what I'm in the mood for, so it kind of
Hmm.
goes around. But I mean, I would say that Barrister Man, because that was probably one of the first ones I used that really was like, like it's like, oh my God, this is incredible.
Right.
And then also, yeah, that was so especially well, I was about to say, I guess I was going to say also to something I don't have any interest in professionally or whatnot, but I did do a scent for Will one time, so I guess that's probably one that. So I would say someone also Holy Cow's another one I really enjoyed that.
Okay.
You know, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sure. Amazing.
Try to say I don't want to sound like I'm just here advertising things people I
No,
work
no,
with.
no, no. But some
Yeah.
people, really have a favorite. I'm similar to you. I have so many different ones. I enjoy rotating. It depends on
Mm-hmm.
the mood, you know? For sure. So as a perfumer, how big a role does scent play for you in wet shaving? Forget fragrance, just, soap and splash.
Yeah, it's something that I think I really enjoy, but I think what having created sense for soap and seeing how
Yeah.
sometimes it doesn't stand up well or something can be totally distorted by it. I think that I've kind of really started to enjoy maybe the more simple, straightforward scents in a soap,
Okay.
especially because I feel like when I work as a perfumer too, that you can get nose fatigue if you smell too many things. So I think that
Absolutely.
also too has kind of influenced me to try to like it really drives me bonkers when I get a shampoo that you can smell after I use it. And I'm just like, well, that's
Right.
one more thing going on here. If I'm trying to wear a scent that I'm working on, or if I just want to
Sure.
enjoy it, or
Yeah.
something like that. It just feels like when I have five things competing over my nose that I just kind of get a little, it gets a little overwhelming a little bit.
Interesting. Interesting. Would you ever consider using unscented soap as a result, or
I
that's
have,
that's
yeah,
going
I
too
do.
far?
But I feel like the nice thing about a shaving soap is that generally it'll wear off so quickly,
Yeah,
so you don't have to worry about it sticking around. And so I like that aspect of it too. That it's like a way that you can enjoy a scent without committing to it for the day.
sure. That's
Hmm.
actually a great analogy for that. Here's a recurring question on the podcast. Would you use another man's soap? Meaning, would you buy used soap from someone else?
Now I always kind of got the ick about that a little bit, and I
Interesting.
don't.
Yeah.
It's like I don't. If you, I think it's one of those things that if someone did it, that's totally cool. It makes sense. It's soap. Like
Sure.
I've gotten soap from people I know, I guess, and I like know. So I don't. I can say I've never used a used soap,
Yeah.
but to just go off and buy one from, I think it's just.
Shaved
But
in
it's
the
like that's one of those things. Like it's a personal thing. Like I think that
very
if
much so. And
Yeah.
that's why I seem to have, latched onto that question because everyone sort of answers it differently. So
uh-huh.
it's interesting.
But it's a judgment-free thing. I don't judge
Sure, of
anybody else.
course.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
It is soap at the end of the day, but it's
Yeah.
interesting. I would use anyone's soap, but I've
Well, it's
heard
soap. It
similar
literally
answer to
cleans.
you,
Yeah.
so
The whole point of soap is it cleans things, so
that's right.
it makes sense to use other people's soap.
Well, but I don't know. This is like not related at all, but I wouldn't share milk with even my best friend, like a glass of milk, for instance. That totally grosses
Hmm.
me out. I don't know why, just something, so
Oh yeah,
I get it.
100%.
I get it. Yeah. Not a good segue, but let's switch to perfuming.
Okay.
What inspired you to start that?
Well, it kind of did come from when I mentioned earlier about
Okay.
scenting the salves, what ended
Yeah,
up becoming the salves. I really enjoyed it, and the more I messed with it, the more it made sense to me. I used to play music and be in bands back in the day, and I had stopped doing that, and so obviously this creative pursuit kind of took that. But um, interesting thing is that with scent, it really felt like creating music in that,
sure.
and you see a lot of like they call scent notes, and there's top, middle, bottom, like you would have a top, middle, and base or something like that.
Sure. Yeah.
And I feel like you compose a fragrance just like you compose a song. They
Interesting.
call it a perfumer's organ. So there's so many musical analogies that I think that it really spoke to me on that level.
Sure.
And I think it also spoke to me in the level in a similar analogy to music in that you can kind of be a really you can I think be really scientific about it, and you can be really and be or you can be really into music theory, or you could do it you can play by ear, or you can kind of be a little bit more on the artsy side, or nobody's purely one or the other, but I think
Right.
I'm a person who is not necessarily always the most scientifically minded, or someone who enjoys I like to know enough to know it, and I like to
Sure.
broad stroke it. And I think that's nice. I learned the scientific part of it to the point where I needed to,
Yeah.
and I could know it. But I think learning the materials to me was more important and something I enjoyed more. But someone might be able to tell you about, a shift space reaction and how that works. And I'm just like, I know what it does, but I'm not going to
But
get,
that's enough, right?
yeah, it's like, I mean, I know how things work and but I don't feel like knowing all the nuts and bolts is something I need to know to be able to do it. So
Sure.
I live in that spectrum, but I
Yeah.
mean, I do. So I kind of what I really did enjoy learning about that though, and I've always been the type of person who might get a D in a class that I didn't care about, and would get a perfect A in all the classes I
Right.
did like.
Yeah.
And so I found like I'm buying textbooks and learning about that, even though um, I might not have gone to all my biology classes in college
Sure.
or very many. So
Yeah.
yeah, so it was really super fun to learn, and I really got into it and got to learn it, and I feel like it is just something that has become a great creative outlet for me, and something that
Sure.
I just think you see a lot of people who are artists in different disciplines become perfumers, and I think there's a way that you kind of people might be dancing around it because you don't know perfuming is out there. You don't know that's something you could even do. So
Right.
you're trying different pursuits and you're doing, and then finally you find out about this, and it's like, oh, that's the thing I should have been doing this whole time.
That
I
was your
just didn't
calling, right?
realize it. Yeah.
Interesting. That's great though. That's so satisfying to find one's calling
Hmm.
as, type thing.
Hmm.
Super neat. And you've been doing it now for well over a decade, right?
Yeah, it was 2015, so I guess it's
Okay.
11 years.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So over a decade for sure. Amazing.
Hmm.
Do you have a favorite scent note in all of that? Something that
Probably
keeps.
vetiver,
Oh
I
yeah.
would say.
Okay.
Yeah, I did one for Maher Olfactive this year called vetiver because I've wanted to do it for a while. And I think that was because I love vetiver so much that when someone, if you want to do like a Tom Ford or Guerlain or all these classic vetivers that are named after vetiver, I think you have to really make it your statement. And I've used
Right.
it so much in the past, and I did something, but I wanted to create a scent that was an homage to vetiver and would pull out different parts of it by using other notes
Hmm.
that pull out different facets of it. And
Sure.
I kind of did approached it a little bit working with uh, Dave, an American perfumer, to do Benton Park for him. But this was like my full blown one. So it's one that I feel like it was kind of like you said, I've done it for 10 years now. I feel like it was time to I've been thinking about it for a few years,
Sure.
but definitely my favorite note. And I was really it's funny you mentioned that because I feel like I finally did my proper tribute to my favorite smell in perfumery.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And a decade later or 11 years later,
Uh-huh.
but still, that's great.
Exactly.
And that's out now for
Mm-hmm.
purchase. Okay, great.
Yeah, it just came out end of July, I guess. So
Oh,
yeah,
nice. So quite recent.
still fresh, hot off the presses.
That's
Yeah.
it. I'll have to check it out. My problem is I'm up in Canada, so these days
Yeah.
shipping is a whole pain in the ass, especially alcohol over the border.
Yeah. And it's kind
Yeah,
of gotten, I think even USPS is cracking down even domestically. So I think like they're
right.
not allowing it. So it's just UPS now and domestically only. And yeah, I've been trying to find solutions, but it's if especially on a small scale, like importing it or exporting it, either way, there's no really economically feasible way to do it that I've
Right.
found, and I'm sure it's probably on your end too. It's probably the same
Yeah,
way. It's really
it
tough.
is. And with, with this current trade war, it's you never know what's
Yeah,
going to happen really. So that's
I was
not
trying to dance around it, but yeah, that's been
yeah.
yeah. I would say my costs have tripled. I've been having trouble getting because no, you can't buy American perfume ingredients. So
Oh,
like I mean,
really? Okay.
you can't get jasmine essential oil that's made in America. So it's been
You
yeah, it's
can't.
been real. No, no, and or because it doesn't you can't grow it here at the scale that
Right.
you would need to harvest it.
It's
Just
all
like there's no
imported.
really past manufacturers here, so bottles
Right.
and everything has been just yeah, it's been bonkers, but
Well,
hopefully things normalize out.
things have no choice, I feel, but to normalize eventually. But we're all waiting with bated breath, I guess.
Uh,
You know, what's involved in creating a fragrance? Someone naive like myself. Uh, Talk about your creative process, maybe. How long does it usually take? I know those are three questions, but
yeah,
riff
they're
on
all yeah. I can
all related.
string those together for sure.
Right.
Um, so it kind of starts off with, and this can take anywhere from I've made fragrances that take a couple weeks,
Yeah.
and then I've done stuff that takes over 2 years.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's hard to say, and sometimes a lot of it has to do with sometimes if you go work on something so much and you go so far down the road, sometimes it's hard to know to take a few steps backwards.
Right.
So I always keep obsessively every single. So I what I do usually is come up. I'll have an idea, whether it's inspired by an ingredient, whether it's inspired by music sometimes, or a piece of St. Louis history, or just
Right.
a weird combination of things that I think in my head, like, though, those would be really good juxtaposition to each other, or some sort of idea, mood, literature, whatever it is, something just sparks something in your head, and you have that idea, and you start unraveling the thread a little bit and getting deeper and deeper in the idea. And I think it usually works for me. Like I think about what the feeling is I want to convey with it, and then you kind of go with
Sure.
that. Of what are the main, like it's coming up with like an outline to write an article. So you come up with like, here's the 5 main points I really want to make,
Right.
and so you kind of I create a structure kind of with that, and then what are the main notes, like what are the big thematic elements of it, and then you kind of fill it in or fill out the rest, like you're writing it out word by word, and you kind of or you create a melody and you put it in the rhythm section, you add things like that, and as you develop it, you kind of all do maybe like get it to a certain point where it starts to get fleshed out, and then maybe divide it up into a few little micro batches. Like I have one batch and say it's like 100 milliliters. I'll do 25 of each,
Yeah.
and then I'll weigh out a little bit to put into one, and I'll do like 4 different micro versions of that, and then kind of keep dividing. So we have a bunch of different iterations. It's kind of like a take on the classic Jean Carl like perfumery idea, where you take something, you add 1 drop or 1 gram, 2 gram, 3 gram, until you see like to the two sides to even out. So you test all the different ways they juxtapose each other.
Interesting.
And I feel like I kind of thought of it. I'm sure I didn't think of it. I'm sure a million people have done it before, but when you're independent, you learn things by just stumbling upon them, even if they're common human knowledge. But I found that I just try to get as many different variations and on that little base, that once I know, I step by step, once I know I'm at this step, I can go further, and I know that this step I would go further, and then finally tie it all together, put the finishing touches on, try it in a few different concentrations to see how it works, to see what it pulls out. So if say I think it smells pretty good in concentration, and then I dilute it to 20%,
Yeah.
and I feel like it's still a little too bottom heavy or needs to be opened up. The top notes aren't singing. Maybe I might dilute it down to 18, 17, 15%, try to
Okay.
really get those top notes to sing a little bit more and just find what the right balance is. And at that point, yeah, that's whenever it's done and I can walk away from it.
Interesting. Sounds quite complex, and that it could often take a lot of time, and you have to be very patient in this process, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Cool.
Mm-hmm. But the nice thing is too, once you do it for a while, you do start to learn, I would say shortcuts, but you kind of know from experience that if I do this, this will happen. If I do this,
Right.
add this, it'll probably have this effect to it. So you can, you probably have a good idea where you're going.
Sure.
But so it's not just shots in the dark, but that's part of the fun is the process of trying little things too.
Oh, absolutely. And do you keep all of these testers or sort of the different iterations, or you get rid of them once you've...
I keep them until I'm finished, and then
Okay.
I'll usually hold on to them for a minute, and then but I've kind of got to the point a few times where I just have shelves and shelves full of testers, and I think
Right.
I'm never going to smell any of this stuff. I should just toss it and be honest with
So,
myself.
so I've seen in many of your videos on YouTube that you're standing in front of, shelves of maybe those are your
Hmm.
samples, or base materials.
Yeah.
Is that in your home? Is that like a home laboratory, or
Oh
that's...
no,
No.
no! I had to get a studio.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think that it's one of those things where I think I did it at first when I was smaller and also when I was
Sure.
single, and now
Right.
being married too, that would be, it's not like it wouldn't permeate the house. And also it's nice for spilling things. I'm a bit of a clumsy guy, so I don't always yeah, I might have a few spills, and so that's nice to have a studio space. But it's also good too because I feel like sometimes when I had it where I lived, that if I had an order come in or if I had something I was working on, I would just end up staying up till like 3 in the morning, getting up at
Yeah.
7, feeling like crap. Mental health starts to
Mm.
wear down a little bit.
Sure. Sure.
It's nice to be able to just have your work separate, and when you walk away, you can walk away and just make sure when you come in with fresh eyes and don't just I and then that way too, it's just like you have the delineation, and then you always make sure you're just there in the right mindset to have get down to work and you know
I love
stick to it.
that.
You're
I
not half
love
working,
that.
half not.
I love that. I wish I could apply that to my life. I'm sitting in my office right here, which is in my house, which is next to my bedroom, where I
Uh-huh.
have not left since the pandemic, basically. And I
Uh,
work as a graphic artist, art director, so I can work from anywhere with a computer,
oh,
So,
I worked as a copywriter for years and
oh,
years. I
did
work
you?
in marketing communications now for corporations, but I was at ad
Okay.
agencies. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
so
So,
that's so funny.
actually,
We're
so I have a great book recommendation if you're a reader.
hmm.
Uh, it's called Then We Came to the End by Joshua Ferris.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Ring a
I'm gonna
bell?
have to
Yeah.
no, but
Here.
I
The
just put
listeners,
it
the
in my
listeners can't
attached to
see,
my
but
browser.
there you go.
Okay, cool. Yeah,
It's
I've actually.
it's about a Chicago ad agency and just, delves into the characters that inhabit it. I thought it was a great read, having been in many ad agencies and, done that whole
Yeah.
thing. Right.
No, I'm glad. I'll check that out because I'm about 3 years removed from ad agency
Oh, are
life,
you?
and
Okay.
yeah, and I feel like sometimes I work in a pretty stuffy corporation now, and it's very corporate life is a lot different than agency life, and I
Sure.
just yeah get a little nostalgic. So I
Right.
appreciate that recommendation.
Yeah, it's fun. It'll pull you right back to your ad agency days, I think.
Uh-huh.
I think. So what's so inspiring to you about St. Louis?
You know, it's one of those things where it's hard to say exactly because there's not one thing that really draws you in, and I know it's not the best. I'm realistic about that. I'm not going to say it's better than anything, but um there are a few things that make it really gratifying. One is that the low cost of live it's got a city with great bones. First of all, it's
Sure.
very walkable. It's got some amazing great architecture. It's what I would say kind of is one of the last East Coast style cities where it was built around for people, not for cars.
Right.
And they've kind of obviously torn things down and highway-fied it, but there's still, you can still totally walk to places all the time, which I love. It's but it's also really close to nature, so I can go out to trails and ride my bike and do things like that.
Yeah.
And I really love that type of thing. But I think the really cool thing is that because it's got a lower cost of living, there's a lower barrier to entry for like artistic pursuits. Like for instance, I
Interesting.
said I have a studio, and
Yeah.
if I lived in Manhattan, I sure as hell wouldn't have a
Probably wouldn't have a
500 square
studio,
feet.
or you'd be living
Yeah.
in your studio, right?
Yes.
That's it.
It, but it also, we have a great food scene, and
Sure.
I mean, because you have to pay to get Michelin to come out and give stars out, people don't really get Michelin stars here. But we have chefs that I think are worthy of it. We always have few James Beard Award finalists and award winners.
Yeah.
But we kind of can do it where I think you can do really daring things because, again, the low overhead is lower, and you might not have that fancy experience, but I think it's more approachable in a way that they serve food that's really a really fun dining experience.
Sure.
Even though like there are high end opportunities, I think that it's nice to have that, and I think that it feels that way with artists and music. It feels very honest and approachable, and
Yeah.
very just not trying to be anything it's not, and being very much all about the shared experience. And I feel like
Sure.
that's something that just feels really good, and it just feels like there's a lot of opportunities to be an artist and to participate in art and to do
Sure.
things that are really rewarding. And I think, I'm not going to say that there's not a lot of things that need to be fixed here, but I think it's also gets a bad rap as well, because a lot of different things I won't get into. But I love St. Louis, and I think it's a great place to live. And
Yeah.
I definitely think that despite all its shortcomings, it's a place that I think people from all walks of life can really enjoy being here.
Sure. Interesting. I was there once. My sister was actually married a St. Louis native,
Oh, okay.
and their wedding celebration was in St. Louis, so I was there, and I found it very close. I live in Montreal, in up in
Mm-hmm.
Canada. Very similar vibe, very similar feel. Very approachable city in any case.
Well, that would kind of make sense too, I guess, being a French settlement or whatever,
Right.
what have you. I
Well,
assume that
that's
there's probably a lot of shared history in that regard, if not directly, kind
yeah,
of
I would
up
think
the
so
family
too.
tree.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And this is absolutely a French place. I mean, it's Quebecois, so it's its own
Uh-huh.
kind of French,
Uh-huh.
which can be endearing and frustrating and all of it, but yeah, makes it different, keeps it different.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's fascinating, and I've always wanted to visit. I actually wanted to come up this year because you all are having the uh, World Cycling Championships up there
Right.
in
That
here.
you know what? That's happening. Are you an avid cyclist?
Yeah, yeah, I like to race bikes and ride bikes and watch bike racing. It's yeah.
That's happening next month, and in fact, I was just complaining about it because my girlfriend my girlfriend lives in a part of town where they're closing a major street for a month to
Oh,
accommodate
I'm
this, and I
sure.
was like, "This is bullshit." But whatever. That's coming from
Well,
someone who's not a cycling fanatic.
yeah. Well, it's funny. My parents went on a cruise, and they went up to. It was at the where the GP Montreal. I guess
Sure,
they have
Montreal,
every
yeah,
year,
the Moto
and
Grand
then
Prix,
they
yeah,
have that. My parents were like, "There's." I was talking to them. They're like, "You would love it here. There's so many people riding bikes. They're all like on teams." And I was
absolutely.
like, "Mom, that's actually this is a huge race. The world champion is out there. It's like actually a really big deal."
But
They
beyond
thought
that,
it
it's
was
it's a very, very cycle friendly city. They try to be
oh
like
cool.
Amsterdam, which they're not, but
Hmm.
cycling is encouraged here, and a lot of people on bikes, and they have bike share services and such. So it's through that lens, you would love it.
Uh-huh.
But I think you would love it too. Anyway, Montreal's a great city just in the
And
summer.
I hear the food is amazing too.
The food
So
is
I've
amazing.
I've always wanted to go. I definitely will make it
Well,
someday.
when you come up here, give me a shout. I'll buy you a beer
Oh,
and
100%.
and
Yeah.
show you the highlights. Um, what does Chatillon Lux mean?
So there was Henri Chatillon was a it's kind of an adventurer, I guess you could say,
Okay.
general all purpose. There was the book The Oregon Trail, and he was the guide in there. His whole thing was he spoke like every single Native American language, but
Oh
couldn't
wow.
actually read or write. He was
Amazing.
a person who was really advanced for his age, and like, you know, treated Native Americans as if, just as a human person that was
Equals.
equal.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And in the book, he kind of teaches the changes the narrator's viewpoint on Native Americans and really helps him come around. I don't know if become enlightened for as much as enlightened as you could, but he had a wife. Her name was Sneemato, and
Okay.
her she was Oglala, and she when she passed away, and it was chronicled in the book, he was just heartbroken and just devastated. Went back home, gave everything up, and then he got had a marriage of convenience, I guess you could say, to Odile Delore Lux. So,
Uh,
or Lou, I guess, as I should say, but I just say Lux in the brand name because it's easier than.
is it Well, I guess maybe in French it's Lou, but no,
Yeah,
Lux, I
yeah,
think, Lux, certainly in English, you know.
but yeah, I figure it's an American brand, so I'll just Americanize it, even though
Right.
I'm sure French speakers get driven crazy. But
Sure.
after, but her father was, or grandfather was the founder of Crondelet, um, uh, Lord de Touget, which is one of the scents
Yeah.
that I've done, and um, that's where I was. Crondelet ended up becoming South City, and
Huh.
then so that's where I was, and so that's kind of all this. It was two, and I was right by the Chatillon de Menil mansion, which is the house that he lived in when he came back. And they ended up finding when they were doing renovations in the attic, they pulled up some floorboards. This is in the 70s because it's still a place where
Oh,
they
wow.
have like weddings and
Neat.
get-togethers and whatnot, like
Sure.
event hosting.
Yeah.
uh, they pulled up the floorboards and found a bunch of things he had hidden with like a rolled up picture of Sneemato and
Oh, wow.
his guide accoutrement. So he kind of had his past hidden up there, even though he tried to leave it
Interesting.
behind. He still had it up hidden up there, and I
Yeah.
thought that was just a complex, interesting character,
Sure.
um, and then I thought to name just Chatillon or Henri Chatillon didn't sound like a good brand name, so I pulled that in with his
Sure.
wife,
Chatillon
second
Lux. Yeah.
wife's name.
Amazing. Amazing. That works. I think it works very well. It's very evocative, and certainly with that story behind it, it's even
Mm-hmm.
richer. That's great. Really fun. And you said you're a copywriter?
Yeah,
Okay. So,
I worked as a copywriter for a very long time, and then I was an ACD for a little while, or
well,
associate creative
sure.
director, I
Yeah.
guess, for those at home who might
Don't
not be
speak
in the industry.
advertising. Yeah.
Yeah, and I kind of just felt like I started to. I felt like, especially here, it's just there's only so many agencies in St. Louis, and I kind of felt
Sure.
like I didn't know if and without a design background, I kind of felt like maybe I was about topped out, and maybe I don't know. I thought maybe it was time for a change, so I got more into like the marketing, communications, content strategy,
Yeah.
brand strategy. So I worked at an agency that was very small, so I got to do a lot of the brand strategy stuff as
Sure.
well, and I really enjoyed that. So I kind of am focusing more on that now, and just because it's also too, it's nice to work at a corporate job where you go home at a decent hour every day, and
Absolutely. Yeah.
like I kind of got tired of maybe working late nights, just
I
feast or famine type
For
of thing.
sure. I often dream of that, but yet, freelance has been very good to me, so I can't complain.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's the thing. I admire anybody who can do freelancing. I tried to do it for a year and just I'm not a I don't hustle. I can't I don't network like I need to. I don't,
Right.
if someone, I just don't chase down where I'll be focusing on what I'm doing and then I'm done and I'm like, oh yeah, so I need more work now.
Right.
I did not think ahead of time that I needed to hustle things.
Fair enough.
Mhm.
Um, what do you love the most about perfumery after, doing it for over a decade now?
It's interesting because sometimes I love it more than others. I think that a few years ago I got a little burned out and I
Oh,
didn't
really?
really
Okay.
do a little work for, a while. Just
Yep.
luckily I had to buy a pallet full of bottles at one point before a lot of the tariffs went on because like the bottles I used for Maher Olfactive were not going to be available in America anymore. So I bought a pallet full of them. So
Sure.
I have thousands of bottles that
So that's a good inspiration
yeah,
to
so
fill them, right? And sell
I
them.
can't, yeah, so I can't leave. So,
Yeah.
but I went on autopilot for a little while, and I think I did a. I got contacted by the Missouri Botanical Gardens. They have a
Oh,
museum there,
nice.
and they were going to do an exhibition on scent. And I talked with the curator, my friend Neshka. She's just incredible. And then Weston Adam, who's also a local perfumer, who working with them and coming up with the ideas about how to talk about scent, how to educate about scent. we
Sure.
recreated the sense of different flowers in the garden
Oh,
and
wow.
got to do so much fun stuff. We get, got to go after hours.
Yeah.
If like a certain flower is blooming, we got to go in at
Nice.
night and sniff things. And I think getting, and I had to create scents that were maybe a little outside of what I've done in the past. And I think
Sure.
doing that made me realize that it's just, I think maybe what I love most about it is the exploration and why maybe I'm not always going to be a good person at like, I think sometimes with the shaving thing that really I had trouble coming up was always coming up with regular releases every, as often as maybe you're kind of, I guess you don't really have to, so I shouldn't say I was expected to, but I just feel like that's kind of the way the market works is everybody comes out with stuff at least a couple times a year.
You have to keep,
Sometimes they
yeah, keep providing new offerings, it seems.
uh
Right.
and I mean I totally get it because people enjoy smelling new things and I do too, but and maybe the breadth of offerings while it's grown huge as a market, like wet shaving compared to, probably 20 years ago, there's still more out in the perfume world and like more things to smell. So I think maybe in the shaving world, if you want to keep in doing what I love to do is smell new things and try new things and
Sure.
experience new things, it is, I think it's, something, it is kind of a demand to feed. And, but yeah, I felt like I'm not always inspired to create a scent. And it is nice
Right.
to, like, I just had two releases for Maher Olfactive this year. Last year, I just had one for Chatillon Lux and nothing for Maher Olfactive. And now it's kind of like just nice to be able to just follow my curiosity where it takes me. And I think that's what I've learned is that I just, if I'm not curious and not interested in learning something or experiencing something new or trying something new, that it just really is not easy to continue making sense just to make sense. And I
Just to
think that
make it
I
right.
have learned that it's just, yeah, that's the thing. Like I said, the thing I love most is just learning and experiencing something new and trying to think about things in new ways and solve new problems.
Sure. No, that's great.
Mhm.
And how many scents or original scents do you have in your catalog? I guess between Chatillon Lux and Mayor Olfactive combined.
Um, I don't know. I did an interview with someone who once told me I've created more sense than Jean-Paul Guerlain,
No
and I thought,
kidding.
well, that's,
Wow.
but
That's
he has a
cool.
lot. When you have to put a lot as much into the releases that he does or Guerlain does compared to what I do, it's a lot easier.
Nonetheless, more is more. Come on.
Yeah, I don't know. It's probably I've probably released at least 50, I would say at this
That's
point,
amazing.
for different. But I never actually sat down and counted, but I would say yeah, there's probably a pretty good amount out there.
Okay, cool. And despite the lack of sometimes inspiration for it, any new collabs coming up in the pipeline? For
I've
shaving, that is.
yeah, yeah. Actually, I was gonna say the newest thing I have going on right now is working with Ben Esposito doing
Sure,
the
nice.
new,
Seaforth
yeah.
stuff. Yeah,
hmm And we've got
exciting.
two new things. Well, we have one with that we Fleur de France had some. We kind of did a revamp of it,
Okay,
and the cool thing about working with Ben versus Dennis is that Ben being such an amazing perfumer that he kind of give really specific feedback, and he's
sure.
also made some changes to the formula too, so that way it's always so Fleur de France he had some ideas. We worked on the new epee, and then that's something that again where he's also like it's a co-perfumer type thing, which is really
Oh, is it?
fun to
That's
do
great.
because it's kind of a way to, I think, make sure there's like a different opposing, not opposing, but different viewpoints of the world and of scent
Right,
kind of in a
right.
sense. So I think that adds a diversity to it and a complexity that is really interesting. So that's been really fun. And there's more in the works. And I don't know what I won't mention because I doubt I I don't
Can't
know if
hear you.
he's even mentioned anything, but I will say there's even more
I,
in the
I don't
pipeline.
think so, and I can confirm that just because I do the artwork.
Yeah.
So, as you already
Uh,
know, so but we won't talk about it. Good
but
things
no,
coming.
but yeah, just do that teaser.
Right. Good things coming,
Mhm.
people. Get ready to click and buy now. No.
But
Um,
that's yeah, that's all I've got going shaving wise. I kind of after Declaration folded, I kind of
yeah.
that was yeah, that I think that was a thing where maybe it would be fun to have my sense in shaving products again, but I don't know. That was kind of a not yeah. might need to think it through a little bit more next time and try to
Okay.
make sure
What was it
it's
all the Chatillon Lux scents for declaration or just
yeah, I did
oh it
all the
was.
Chatillon Lux
Okay.
ones, yeah. And I'm kind of revamping the catalog now a little bit to get rid of some ones that didn't really sell. So
Okay.
I'm turning that over. And I think that the tough thing was sometimes too is that if you design a scent for sometimes for strictly for a perfume, it doesn't work as well in the soap. Like I
Right.
mentioned, sometimes you have to come up with two different versions. So I think that
Sure.
there would be like a new creative process I would need to do, and also try to think of a more efficient way to um, ensure everything was more smooth between people who live distances apart and don't
Right.
really, work together. So, logistically it's tough, but I think that's the kind of the nice thing about doing this C4 thing is that I kind of get to do the synths and all the stuff that's fun, and then Ben and Vita take care of all the stuff that's not fun and
Right.
is mind numbing. So,
Yeah. So just the fun parts. That's great.
yep.
And I guess, working with Ben, as you said, he's also a perfumer, so you kind of speak the same language. That's
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool.
So my next question was exactly what you just said, which is it annoying to have to reformulate or tweak formulations for different products like soap and aftershave and EDP? And it's all slightly different, even in the EDP, eau de parfum, extrait,
Hmm.
all of that, right?
Hmm.
So is that a
Yeah, it
constant?
is. It's interesting. I don't think it's bad. Sometimes it is. You're up against it, and one of the impetus for creating a Maher Olfactive line that doesn't have didn't that was separate from Chatillon Lux was that it was when I did Santa Loster when it was originally in the Chatillon Lux line, and then a little bit before it was set to release, month or so, it was like, oh, this doesn't work in soap at all.
Right.
So like I had to reformulate, and ended up becoming something that smelled completely different than the perfume
Sure.
itself. And that was something that I was a lesson about needing to should have thought of that ahead of time probably. But also I think it worked out. It was a good scent. It was just a different scent,
Sure. Yeah.
and so I think that but I think that if there was a way to think of that through ahead of time and set and think about it, and even maybe find a way to use our just use the branding, just make it say like this, make it a slightly different name or something, so that way it's like the companion to or something
Yeah.
like that. And so I think it's fun in that it does the limit, you know necessity is the mother of invention. So the when you're forced to do that, it does make you kind of really, it's a fun brain exercise, and it is really fun. It's like
Sure.
in advertising when you come up with the coolest concept ever and you give it to a client and they say this actually sucks, come up with something new, and you're like, this is
It's the story of
actually
my life,
brilliant.
man. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you realize, you finally get to that point where you're like, oh, well, if I came up with something good before, I can come up with something good again. It's not the
Sure.
end of the world. So
Of course.
I think it's kind of fun to find that new challenge
Yeah.
and do it for a different medium. But it definitely is, if you don't go into it with a plan ahead of time, it is frustrating. But I think if you were to think about it more clearly, I think that is something that can be fun.
Sure. Sure.
Mhm.
Does one surpass the others, like, or the plan at least? Mayor Olfactive sort of set to exceed Chatillon Lux, or they're both kind of growing in tandem or moving along in tandem?
Uh, yeah, I mean, to be completely honest, yeah, Maher Olfactive is on the way up, and Chatillon Lux has kind of declined year by year.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Especially, I think maybe since the shaving things, and I think that it's just, um, it's kind of stuck between two worlds where I like to make it where it's affordably priced, but I think
Right.
sometimes if someone sees that, they think it isn't, you know, good, and it doesn't contain as many naturals, and a lot of people, that's why they go to niche perfumes, because, and you don't have that kind of budget. But I think that they're really interesting scents, and I think that it goes in waves, and I think that I'm kind of trying to make it so it's a little more coherent of a line. There's less overlap. What maybe I had some sense that it smelled, maybe you might not choose one or the other because they had so much overlap in the way they're constructed or the type of
Interesting.
nose they had or things like that. So I think I'm
Yeah.
trying to think about the line more thoughtfully,
Okay.
and I'm hoping that kind of gets things maybe a little more back on track. But I think it's I also think that it's just maybe it didn't have a voice for a little bit too, where it was kind of like I had a lot of scents that I had created in like 2017, and like
Right.
maybe they just didn't make as much sense with the newer perfumes that I was coming out with, and it just felt like
Interesting.
they were, just like like you talk about branding, you just want everything to make sure it feels like that Chatillon Lux brand and smells like that scent. And I think
Sure.
there's maybe some
Sure.
overlap. So I did. One of the coolest things some people said to me when I did an event in Chicago with Maher Olfactive was I can tell all these scents smell different, but they all smell like you and they have your voice
Right.
in them. They don't smell the same. There's a certain way you do things, like, and someone described it as a density. Like all my Maher
Interesting.
Olfactives are very dense and they're tightly wound,
Yeah.
but like I think I try to intentionally try to be more airy with the Chatillon Lux fragrances, and some of them weren't. They felt like maybe a Maher Olfactive type scent, and I think that I'm trying to get that line to be a little bit more cohesive in that manner.
Interesting. Okay. And is that an opportunity to reformulate some of them or not necessarily? Just,
I've thought about it for sure, and I think there are ones like Grasha League Square that I
yeah.
think that was one that people really liked, and it had some materials that I learned, you don't get a proprietary material from a brand like just someone's, because that might change or they might stop selling it or they might reformulate it
Sure.
without telling you. And I learned that the hard way because that was one of the first scents I made. So that one is something I've always thought about. I'm trying to find the right way to do it, but I have a newer one in my line Trigé, which
Yeah.
is a third, like kind of the third generation in a way, because I had Delors de Trigé and then I did Eau de Trigé,
Huh.
which I felt had a lot of overlap with other ones, and it kind of then I went back with Trigé and I really tried to do a straight one for one. If I wanted to take this original scent that I created and make it how I perfume now for the Chatillon Lux line. So I did reformulate that one using the same notes, but in a completely different manner.
Interesting.
And I thought that was, yeah, I think that was a super fun exercise. And it's something
Sure.
I would like to try again for sure.
Interesting. And I imagine as a perfumer, just, as any kind of professional, you keep evolving and sort of,
Mm-hmm.
perfecting your art, right? So that makes a lot of
Mm-hmm.
sense. Interesting. Do you think we're in a golden age of wet shaving or perfumery right now? Or is that past or is that yet to happen?
I mean, I think that a lot of times I think that there's a golden age in the proliferation of information age. It makes
Right.
it a golden age in that I think anything that's a really niche hobby or a niche interest or things that are, just a little bit, even in niche music, something that's really, you can still go to a show and see like 50 people who are like, I love this type of thing. And I remember back in the day having to buy like Punk Planet or things like that to
Right.
magazines to try to find bands I liked. And now I can
Yeah.
just go on Apple Music and it recommends a bunch of bands that sound like the band that I like. And
Right.
so easy now. So I think that that's available, and I think that makes it a golden age. But I think there's also, to go back to the music analogy too, I think the golden age is usually your coming of age. So like my golden age was the early mid aughts. Music wise, I think that's the stuff that I find I'll love forever, and
Yeah.
there are the things I discovered then too. And then I think that it's tough because I think it's hard to continue to, I like with music or with scents too. Like I try to always make sure I'm smelling or listening to something new that would be outside of what I would normally do. But
Right.
at the end, I think I always come back to the things that I love and that I fell in love with early on whenever I was still formulating my tastes.
Sure. And I guess, as you said earlier, someone commented that, despite the variance, it all smells like your stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
it's
Mm-hmm.
testament to that, right? You've created your style or your signature
Mm-hmm.
or what have you. I don't know. That's interesting. But that I've asked that question often in many of the other podcast interviews that I've done, and I think that that is certainly to me the most satisfying answer. So thank you.
Uh-huh.
Really good.
Uh-huh.
Really, really good. I know you touched on it earlier that you were on, I think you called it a social media diet, which is also a
Mm-hmm.
great expression. But my question is, how long have you been a member of the online community?
That was probably 2014, 13,
Okay.
14,
Yeah.
probably 14,
Was
I
that
would say.
after you got into
Maybe.
shaving? Many people like myself during the pandemic, I found all of these obsessive weirdos on Reddit. Like that. That's what got me into the community and got me into wet shaving, in fact. Some
Mhm.
people are already involved before, but was that the case for you as well? Or
I'd started and I kind of felt like I'm one of those people who, if I'm going to get into something, I usually research it a lot and I don't
right,
really just kind of, I never half-ass it. I really just dive into things and like to learn everything there is about them. And I'm not really one to casually do a hobby.
okay,
So like, so yeah, I started doing it. I think I got originally got things from Target, and then
sure,
I started learning try how to use it, started discovering all these videos and forums and whatnot. And then I started, yeah, kind of lurking, buying a few things, seeing what people said. And then eventually you kind of have questions or you want to, talk about something because, Lord knows you're not talking about it with anybody in your own life, but
right.
because nobody wants to hear
Because
about that.
that's right. It's secret and hidden. Yes.
Uh, and it's just easier to make you definitely feel like it's going to land a lot more. And, you don't have to, if you go with people who have share similar interests. So you
Sure.
naturally do that. And I think, I was also, yeah, I think I joined there and I had some jobs that were not super busy very often. So I
Right.
kind of had a lot more time to spend online during my workday, I think. And also working at a small agency, there was at one point where I was roped into also being the social media manager. So
Oh, wow.
I was already
Okay.
online
So you're
doing
online
that
all day
anyways,
long.
which
Yeah.
also led to the social media burnout a little bit, having to, do it for brands. But I think that was the thing. And once the pandemic got over and I was go back to office and kind of get back to things, I realized I think that I need to slim down on maybe how much time I spend engaged
Sure.
on social media. And I think too, that's kind of when I brought. So in the pandemic, I started really taking things seriously, like trying to, I turned 40 in 2022. So I was like, wanted to, trying to just work out more, eat better, try to really focus on sleeping better and doing things like that. And realized that I think part of that was I probably needed to cut back on being on social media too much and
Sure.
just try to find a balance in everything in life.
Of
And then
course.
yeah, so I just went on a diet, as we said, and I think
Yeah.
it's been really nice because I think that it's having that boundary. Sometimes, though, it does make me hesitant because I know I need to be engaged a little bit more, but it's
Well,
hard
there's,
to.
there's a fine line, and
Mhm,
it's everyone should take a lesson from what you just said, I think, because it's overwhelming.
mhm.
It's too much to be online all day,
But
as
some
included.
people handle it better too. I think. I
For
think that
sure.
some, and I think I know people who spend a lot of time on social media, and I don't think they feel like they are really getting sucked in that much. I think they can just walk away from it. And I think that, or people I know. So at least it
Sure.
seems like
Yeah.
from the outside compared to
Yeah.
what I felt like I was doing. So
For sure.
I think
Everyone's
that,
different though. It's, I
yes,
was a
exactly.
cigarette smoker for 30 years and I
Mhm.
despise these social smokers who can just go out and smoke
Oh,
away.
yeah.
The next day it's like nothing. And that, that wasn't
Yeah. I
how I
can't
met.
imagine doing that.
Right.
Yeah.
So no, to each his own, but I think it's a good thing to do too, because it's
Mhm.
not, I don't know. It was always very interesting to me that the man that created the iPhone, that invented it, wouldn't let his kids use it.
Mhm.
That speaks
Yeah.
volumes. Not necessarily
Yeah.
to social media, but to the whole package, really. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, no, I think you're right. I think when you have those insights and you see the numbers that they probably saw when they were trying to get people to use their phones more, I'm
Sure.
sure that that was
Well, and
probably
I think if
terrifying.
to be timely, if I'm not mistaken, there was a trial that got underway today against Facebook in Europe.
Yeah. 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 I didn't know that started already, but I am
I
very
think it
interested
started
about that.
today. Yeah. So we'll see how that plays out too.
Hmm.
So despite your lack of engagement or less engagement now, have you found or do you find that the community's changed over time when you pop back
Yeah.
in, say?
No, I sometimes because I keep if I get a Reddit tag or something, I'll see it in my email and I'll go check it
Sure.
out. And I feel
Yeah.
like the vibe feels refreshingly unchanged there. I feel like it
Interesting.
feels very
Okay.
laid back and cool, and people are still having fun. And I think it's still, um, I think there's also a fun self awareness in that community that maybe doesn't always happen in other communities. Where I think people realize. I think that's why I was joking earlier about not being able to talk to people in real life. I think everybody is like,
Right.
we all like it, and I think if there's a chance to tell someone about it, but I think everybody's very realistic about we found this niche thing. It's fun. It's cool. And I think that makes it more fun because we realize that, the absurdity of it all, don't take ourselves
Sure.
too seriously. And I think that
Sure.
that's always the funny thing too. If someone asks me what I do for a hobby and I'm like, well, I'm a perfumer. And then let me explain this to you now. And I realize that there's going to be a lot of disbelief. And I think that's kind
Sure.
of, I think that's kind of the fun thing though, when you realize that it is, I've never been a person to take myself too seriously. And I think that's kind of the fun thing about the community. Everybody's there to have fun.
Yes, very much so. And
Mhm.
I even personally have made some great friendships that will
Mhm.
last hopefully a lifetime through this. So it's just a group of good people. I
No,
mean, there's
yeah,
some
for
bad
sure.
seeds, but that's what sparks the drama. And there's always,
Uh,
a need and a desire for the drama. So that
yeah. What else would people
fulfills
talk
it.
about?
That's right. So any other hobbies aside from perfuming?
Yeah, just perfuming. Like I said, our race bikes, we have one in 24 velodromes in America here
Oh,
in St.
wow.
Louis.
Okay.
So that's kind of fun to be able to do that.
Yeah,
Track racing's feels a lot like the wet shaving community in a way too, because it's like a super communal thing. It's laid back, and people realize that it's very inclusive.
sure.
So there's some road bike racing is not always as inclusive, and I think that it's kind of fun to find that again, having finally found that community where you can show up and you can have fun, but
Yeah,
also realize like we're just dorks on bikes, racing each other. So,
sure.
oh, but yeah, I that's a blast, and then just other than that, I feel like I'm kind of, I guess, not the most exciting person in the world.
Well, I mean, all that's pretty exciting nonetheless. So, um, how much other perfume do you buy for research? And I'm making air quotes that the
Yeah.
listeners can't see.
I've kind of gotten to the point where I buy lots and lots and lots of samples,
Yeah,
and I will buy bottles if it's something I absolutely love, but only have a certain amount of space allotted for
sure.
my perfume, and so I kind of try to be and also I think that there's like I've had bottles that are maybe not, especially if they're not the most high end, or not high end, but whenever you're an independent perfumer, you can't maybe always source the best stuff, especially in the pandemic. Things were a
Sure.
little dicey,
Yeah,
and I think maybe you might get something that's the lid doesn't. I remember, and this happens in some of mine too. I've seen some of my older stuff. I think there was a while where it was kind of like really hot. Like if there wasn't airtight, you might see some evaporation or whatnot.
interesting.
And
Okay.
I've and I so I just I think I've really become conscious about wanting to make sure the things I buy are the things I really love. And I do love that people though do um 15 or 30 milliliter bottles.
Yeah,
That's Maher Olfactive. I started selling 15s myself because I know that how, even though it is a pain to, as a one person, to stock two different SKUs of every scent, or three if you count the samples.
yeah.
I feel like I don't want to be hypocritical and say, you know, don't buy 15 milliliters from me, even though I will buy them from a lot of my favorite
Others, sure.
perfumers. So yeah.
Well, the full bottles are definitely a commitment, certainly at a higher price point for this
Mm-hmm.
perfume. So you got to really love it, I guess.
Uh,
But samples, yeah. I mean, I have all of your sample kit back when it was easy to order stuff from the States. And
mm,
it's great to, get the gamut and get to try them all, I think, in any case. Do you have a
yeah.
do you have a favorite perfume?
I mean, it's one of those that where you kind of like whatever at the moment is really,
Okay.
speaking to you. I think that um, the I have been really enjoying when I was on the creating vetiver. I wore a lot of vetiver perfumes,
Yeah.
and I have one. It's Parfums de Empire. Their vetiver perfume is one I've been wearing a lot lately. It's super interesting. It pulls out a lot of the floral aspects of vetiver, and
Oh,
so it smells like a dried vetiver root itself, and that floral aspect that you don't really get in the essential oil. So that was super fascinating. But
interesting.
um, yeah, I don't know. Like though for my all-time classics, I would say probably stuff by Guerlain is like the vintage Guerlain stuff is really, really my jam. That's some of
Okay.
my favorite stuff. Or like Emerald by Cody, the vintage one by that was, which is kind of inspirational for a lot of Guerlain compositions, but that kind of you know age of early mass produced perfume stuff where
Yeah.
you still kind of had that mass produced, but it was still pretty natural laden and really thick and really baroque. That was
Yeah.
probably my favorite style. Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Okay. Does a perfumer always have to be wearing something?
In fact, I probably wear the longer I've created perfume, the less I
Oh,
wear
really?
because I feel like sometimes the fatigue really gets you. I
Right.
probably smell a lot of stuff on strips like that I when I get samples. And
Sure.
I mean, one's working in an office and like, especially
Also,
one where it's like the rows of desks where you sit side by side by people. So it's kind of like,
right.
we're not squished, but we're also not, too that far away from each other. So I
Fair
just don't
enough.
want to be that person.
Do they
And
know, do they know of your hobby?
a couple people on my team do, but
Okay.
I don't want to be the person that seems like he's selling Mary Kay or something to people and being like,
Sure
like,
isn't Mary Kay, but
no.
I hear you. I hear you.
But yeah, it's my hobby. I want to sell to people because they love it, not because they want to buy it because they feel like they have to because I'm
Because you're a
someone they work
coworker.
with.
Yeah. Fair
Yeah.
enough. How do you come up with the names for your fragrances? Some, well, I think you mentioned earlier, some are inspired by songs, but
Mm-hmm.
are they all or not necessarily?
Not really. I do have a few like Nefertiti and Valoria and Just Like Honey. It's one I came out. That's a Jesus and Mary chain one that I just did. And but some of them are just based on like there's one called Orris Forest. I was
Yeah.
going to call it Merrimack because it was by at my grandma's house. It made me think of wading in the creek that was a tributary to the Merrimack River. But then I kind of just one of the main components is Orris, and then I started thinking about Orris in the forest and Orris Forest, and I thought that name was fun, and
Yeah.
I just couldn't get it out of my head. So eventually, I changed it when I released it to Orris Forest because it was just
Yeah.
stuck in my
It
head.
works
But
for sure.
yeah, sometimes it just comes. I do like coming up with the titles though because obviously as a copywriter, that's one of my things I like to do is really
Sure.
try to how
Absolutely.
much emotion I can pack into one small, tiny little thing. And I think music is a great way to cheat that because I think perfume and music really work in that same way where you can just hear it or you can smell it and suddenly you just have a memory in your head. You don't even know
Right.
where it came from. And I think they both have that same emotional response. So I think that music is a great way to convey that emotion that I want to do with the
Absolutely.
perfume.
Yeah. No, I think so too. And it all, I mean, it all tells a story, and especially your scents very much tell a story or bring you somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
which is a great testament to them being very effective, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Oh
Um,
yeah. Thanks.
future plans for Maher Olfactive or Chatillon Lux?
I'm trying. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of want to. I want to figure out international distribution, but
Yeah,
it just feels like it's really tough, and it's one of those things where I don't want to take out a loan or just invest a ton of
sure, of
money into
course.
something, so I could try to grow naturally.
Yeah.
So it's tough, and I think that I think that I don't know. So I think I'm just trying to maybe I've kind of told myself I'm going to think about those types of things, and that's something I'm going to have on my no set amount of years plan moving forward.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
at the moment, I think I just kind of want to try to get just like try to I don't know figure out how really solidify the Chatillon Lux line and make sure and try to make it viable again, and
Yeah.
then other than that, I'd like to try to do. I did that fumed event for in Chicago, and I think that was super fun. This year, they're doing one in Atlanta coming up that I'm not going to be able to make, but I think that I want to get out there and try to do again, try to get out, do more in person events again because
Sure.
that stuff like that or the Magrid meetup, things like that, where you talk with like minded people is super fun and
Yeah.
very emotionally invigorating.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, and I think that my goal is to always that I always say is try to be more active or post more on social media, and then I never do it.
Yeah.
But I got a TikTok page, and
Oh, do
because
you
everybody
really?
at Team told me that I had to do TikTok,
Yeah.
but
Eh.
I my social media diet before TikTok really blew up, and I just can't sit around watching videos. I'll turn it on
No.
TikTok. I'm like, it just feels invasive, like just too much
Yeah.
to handle. My brain feels overloaded, and I have to turn it off. So I prefer to read things. So I think
Sure.
Instagram is where I feel more comfortable. But I tell myself I'm going to do more videos. I used to just write synth note blogs. Every blog I would write, or every synth I would release, I'd write a blog to accompany it. And
Huh.
then people wanted videos, so I started recording those, much to my chagrin. And um, but I know I got to do it, so I'm trying to get better at it. And that's I got little lapel mic. I got
Oh, okay.
things like that.
Sure.
I'm trying to really improve upon that and just be better at coming up with more content, because I know there's things that people like to hear other than just saying, here's what my new synth's about. And I
Right.
do have things I'd like to talk about. So I think
Okay.
just trying to get on there and talk about things that I think are important other than just advertising things. That's kind of my
Sure.
goal to do, I think, my in the immediate future.
Fair enough. It's a question of finding the time, though, I imagine, right?
Yeah, always.
That's never easy, especially with a job and a hobby and all of it.
For sure.
And final question for you.
Mhm.
Any good music recommendations?
Um, well, I've always been the kind of guy who likes the, you know, likes maybe not a little more off the beaten path type of things. And
That's
I've been kind
great.
of right now, one of the things I've been listening to, one of the newest things is the blood. There's a band called the Blood Brothers, and they
Blood Brothers.
broke up, and there's a new band with most of them called Evil Island,
Okay.
and they got together, and then they got Guy from Fugazi, which was one of my all-time favorite bands, appeared
Sure.
on it. So I've been checking that out lately.
All right.
But also I've been into a lot of this shoegaze revival that they've been going on,
Sure.
because uh, I it's so funny because listening to it in the '90s and the first wave of it, and then after it got popularized because of TikTok apparently, and so I
Oh,
saw when
really?
Slowdive got
There you
back
go.
together.
Yeah.
I went to the Slowdive concert, and there's dudes in their 40s like me, and then there's like little young Gen Z people, and we're all just listening to the same band, and it's just kind of funny
Wild.
that
Yeah.
to see this like two different generations of people enjoying shoegaze, but that's been really cool to see that revival as well. I think
Sure.
that really been enjoying the new album by Nothing. That was
Okay.
what I would put that out there as well.
Nice. Thank you. Those are great suggestions. I'll certainly check them out. I learned about all of this from my 19-year-old son, who is a drummer and plays
Oh,
in bands and really into Duster. So I learned about shoegaze
oh,
from him.
yeah, nice. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, it's fun. All these subgenres that, I knew rock and jazz and, maybe hip hop, and
Uh-huh.
now it's subdivided into a million different little subgenres. So it's all very
Hmm.
interesting.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, there's just now we can always get connected to the weirdest subgenre you can ever like. There's
That's right.
I've been learning about like the black gaze stuff, where it's black metal combined with shoegaze, and that's just a thing
Sure.
you never thought you would ever see in your life, and
Yeah.
then you hear it, and you're like, well, there's something for everybody out there.
Yeah. Every Monday, Monday evenings in my basement, there's a lot of screamo going on, for instance.
Oh, nice.
Right.
Uh-huh.
It's all these terms are great. They would make great perfume names, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
So that brings us to the end of our chat tonight. But I wanted to thank you, Shawn, because it was really enlightening and wonderful to chat with you
Yeah, for sure. That was a blast. Thanks for having me.
anytime. And to the listeners, as always, thank you for listening, and we'll see you again soon.